Hi, this is James Scott, born in the Bayou. In this episode, we're going to be previewing the role-playing game Maximum Apocalypse, designed by Scott Oles, based on the board game of the same name that was done by Mike Nade, with artwork being done by Gustav Ringmar. In the Maximum Apocalypse role-playing game, you are going to be in a struggle of constantly trying to find food, scrap, ammo, just struggling to stay alive because there's going to be monsters constantly chasing after you. What type of monsters? Well, it's Maximum Apocalypse. You're going to have aliens, zombies, robots, giant lizards, other people because of the food riots, or any combination of anything. In this system that Scott has designed, you're going to be able to pretty much take any type of post-apocalyptic book, movie, TV show that you really like and are going to be able to recreate it in this setting. In this game, you're going to need to make a character, obviously. So Scott has designed a system that should take you about 20 to 30 minutes the first time making a character, which is really nice. What you're going to want to do is pick your primary archetype, your secondary archetype, your personal apocalypse, your age, your lucky mutation, your gear. And now after you picked all that, you're going to go ahead and start plugging in numbers. Now, what I like to do is kind of do a narrative where I just went down through all these choices, and then because by the time you're done, your background is pretty well written out of what your character came from after you've done all your choices that way. And I call it narrative creation. And I really like that, and I like the fact that he put that in here, because a lot of this is it's all point-based system where you're just plugging in the numbers afterwards. And so after you pick all of those, you're going to go ahead and all your stats start at 25. And then you will go down to each of the charts. And then you would just be plugging in the numbers and adjusting all these based on your archetypes and your age. And then you're going to go ahead and pick your skills. And your skills are based off your age type and your two different types of archetypes and your personal apocalypse. Once you get all those in there, and what you're gonna do is on your skills, you're gonna put a P on them for being proficient. Later on, you're gonna skill those up, level those up, and I'll explain in a minute. What you're going to do in the system of this game is everything is pretty much rolling a D100 dice. And what you will do is you're going to be rolling under a target number. In this case, let's say I want to do athletics. Well, if you want to do athletics, it's under strength. Under strength, I have a 60. So all I need to do is roll under a 60 to get a success. Now, if I roll under half of that, I get a great success. If I roll under a quarter of that, it is an amazing success. And if I roll a 1, it's a critical success. Well, of course, on the opposite side of the coin, if I roll a 100, I have got a critical failure. Now, don't fret. There's different ways that you can adjust this and make some of it a little easier for you. How is that? Well, one of the ways is to have advantages and disadvantages. As you notice, some of these skills you're not proficient in. Well, the skills you're not proficient in, you're going to be rolling those at a disadvantage. And there's also ways that you can do certain things to be able to create an advantage. What's an advantage and disadvantage? Well, when you roll your percentile dice, you'll also roll an extra tens dice. Now, when you do that, if you have the advantage, you get to choose the lower of the two, because you remember, lower is better. And if you're at a disadvantage, when you roll those two tens dice, you have to choose the higher of the two. And I really like that. It's almost like doing a re-roll, but it's all being done in one roll. So you keep it down the amount of dice rolling in the game and allow a little bit more of the smoother gameplay. Now, there is re-rolling, and after you get all these stats, you'll notice there's some special stats on here that you figure out. One of those is how many lucks you have. Lucks will allow you to re-roll your roll, but you got to be careful, because if you re-roll and you fail again, it's kind of a worse failure. If you roll a critical failure on a reroll, it's a catastrophic failure. So you really want to, you got to watch those rerolls. They are helpful, but you got that chance that they can really turn around and bite you. So, and I like that. It's a nice little twist on it. You're going to also have combat. In combat's done a little differently. Combat is an opposed roll. And what I mean by that is you're going to roll your attack, and your opponent, so let's say I'm fighting the zombie, the opponent will be the game master, he's going to roll, and we're going to compare our successes. Whoever has the higher success wins, and then they roll the damage. In the case of players versus a monster, players always win ties, unless it's a boss. If it's a boss, players always lose the ties, making the boss a little bit harder, which is a neat little twist. Now, when I said that the creature has that defense, which is really nice, so you're not just rolling against an armor class or anything simple like that. It's an opposed roll. It gives you that opportunity to, if you're better at defense, instead of just walking around like a walking tank, you're going to be able to, dodge and move out of the way. There's a couple of different defenses, and I really like that. It's a nice idea. It's a better system. What you're going to want to do on your attacking is you're going to want to take any advantage you can. On your combat, you're going to have 2 actions per turn, and you're going to have a reasonable amount of free actions. But on your 2 actions, one of your actions can be to aim. What aim does? Well, aim gives you an advantage when you're rolling your combat or your attack. So that's always nice. And you're saying, like I was saying on the defense, well, one's if I don't want to dodge. Well, that's fine. You do. You're just going to have to let your armor absorb it, because there's a good chance you're going to be hit because you're just standing there. The armor. Well, yes, you can wear armor. Well, armor's kind of chintzy. It's just pieces of scrap. So when you look at a leather vest, it's not really a leather vest. It's a bunch of scrap of leather. A couple hits and it's going to fall apart. But don't worry. He's actually already figured that into the system too. In this system, we have a crafting system also, and a repairing system. And in this system, what you're going to be using is component pieces, or CP, and complex pieces. And what those are is, component pieces are a little bit of scrap, some screws, some wire, maybe a little spring. Complex components might be like a little electric motor, circuit board, exactly what they sound like, a complex component. You can take your regular components and turn them into complex components. It takes 4 components to make one complex component. And well, why you need these? Well, because your armor is going to need a certain amount of components to fix. This car over here may need a certain amount of components, and a certain amount of complex components to fix. Oh, don't have one to fix? Well, how about make one? In this system, you're actually going to be able to also make and create drones. And I'm not talking these be a little, no, I'm talking some big drones that fly around, carry cargo, or you got a little motorcycle you want to build, or you want to build a big car. Well, he has all that in there where you figure out all the different stats you want on the vehicles or drones, and you can come up with the amount of components you need to go around and find, and then you can go ahead and role play it out. And I really like that. So instead of going around going, well, I got 10 foot of wire and I got some paper clips and all that. No, I got 30 components in my bag. And so whenever you go to need something, you can role play it out with the game master of, hey, I need a spring and a length of wire to fix this car to get it running. Oh, wait, I got that, and then subtract off a couple components. It's almost like if you got the junk drawer at home like I do, it's almost like carrying around that junk drawer. You don't know what's in there. You just know there's stuff in there that's always going to come in useful sooner or later. The other thing about here, what I was talking about earlier about raising your stats and stuff, is the XP system. You notice there's nowhere on the board there's no levels because there isn't no levels in this game. It's a free form system. And I love those type of systems where you just use your XP. You'll have your total XP, and then you'll have whatever you haven't spent. You want to raise your stat? Well, that costs this much XP. You want to raise a skill? It costs this much. So you're going to be able to bring those skills up above the proficient to skilled, trained, or mastered. And it's kind of a neat way of doing it, and where you can make your character anything you want. You're not tied to your archetypes. And in skill levels, what you're going to be doing is, if you are got proficient, you just roll whatever your stat is. If you are skilled, what that's going to do is you just roll your stat, but now you get a +5 to that stat. So if I was skilled in athletics, I'd have a 65. Trained, I get a +10, so now I go up to a 70. If I'm master, I get a +15 total to that stat, so now I have a 75. And it's a nice little way of being able to really skill up on your skills and not really get too overpowered. But it is still an advantage that you're going to want to get up on your various different skills. Now, if you noticed, a lot of these archetypes look very familiar if you have the board game. Well, they're the same archetypes that were in the board game. The board game actually has a lot of stuff that you're going to be able to carry over into the role-playing game. One of which is, well, if you got the Legendary Edition, you'll have these miniatures. And then you'll have your miniatures for your games of the various different types of archetypes. Also, you will have these map tiles. So you can lay down the map tiles, just kind of lay out your board for your players and show them how the area is. Or what I think is a great idea is you go ahead and place down the tiles of, okay, you guys are at this farm, and there's a forest over here and a gas station over here, and all this other area, you don't know what it is. You're exploring. So as the characters go out, you flipped all those other tiles upside down so that as they explore, they can flip over the tiles and discover what is out there. And it's a really neat idea, being able to use the old board game to this new system. Also, too, I find that the little tokens for your monsters are nice to have. Be a game master, keep those behind the screen. As I said earlier, you're going to be constantly being chased after by monsters. Any action and every action you do is going to attract more monsters. Well, how? Well, the game master has a little gauge behind his screen, and anytime you attack, you scavenge, you forage for food, you fire that gun at that zombie instead of attacking him with a knife, well, that is, he's going to keep going up that little chart. He's going to roll every so often. If it goes under that number, his target number on the chart, you're going to attract some more monsters. Remember I said snoring? Well, when you snore, every so many hours of sleeping, you're going to attract monsters. Yeah, I find it really funny that somebody came up with the idea of putting snoring in the game as a negative. My wife would totally agree. Also, on the food, if you remember in the board game, you're always constantly needing the food. Well, in this game, you're also needing food. On your character, you'll have a spot of how much food you'll need. On the average, it's about 2 food units a day you'll need to eat. Well, if you don't, that's fine. You're going to take hunger damage. As you slowly take more and more hunger damage, your character is going to get to a level where he's going to starve. And then all the way down to emaciated, and then you're going to pass out. So, and you can recover this health damage, or not the health damage, I'm sorry, the food damage by taking in more food. So when you eat, instead of eating 2, you eat 3 or 4. There is a limit, so you just can't pig out. If you eat the food, and now you're going to start healing back up your hunger damage and slowly get back up your hunger. So that's a lot of these games being really able to synergize with each other and be able to utilize themselves. So this is James Scott with Board in the Bayou. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe below. Thank you.